a problem.
All right, guys, welcome to the show, Heliopsychosis. This is your host, Vikka Draziv. Guys, welcome to the show. And if you're watching us from YouTube, do comment, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. I'm having an echo, please. Could you off the mic? Yes. And do comment, like, share, and subscribe, guys, if you're here for the first time, and hit that bell icon. Help us grow the community. If you're watching us from Fern or Heliopsychosis group on Facebook, do comment and tag your friends. And if you're watching us finally from realtruthseekers.com, welcome everybody there. realtruthseekers.com is one of our main sponsors for Heliopsychosis and most of our productions of Truth Frequency films and Truth in Plain Sight. So make sure to check out truthseekers.com, a totally non-shadow banned, uncensored platform for all amazing content which normally you won't find on YouTube. All right, guys, what an awesome show we have today. Let's jump into our guest. First, my first co-host, like always, everybody know him. He really don't need an introduction now. The helicopter pilot engineer from Flatten the Curve. Hey, Rob, how are you?
Vikka, thanks as always for the invitation and for putting all this together. 5 o'clock Sunday afternoon is routine for me now.
Rob.
Exactly, and thanks for everybody else for showing up. I'm just going to read in order of what we see on the screen. Kevin, Gene, Eddie, and Matthew. We got people from Spain to the U.S. to Nagoya, Japan. We got a pretty good group here. Matthew, where are you coming in from? Are you in the States?
I'm in Southern California.
Okay, Southern California. Kevin's in New Mexico, and Gene's in New York. So we're covering both the east and west of the United States and Spain and Nagoya, Japan. Excited for this one. This is a big subject. It's a great big subject, and we got a lot of material. And I mean, government operations. We've got Operation High Jump, Fishbowl, and modern and current announcements from NASA that talk about an impenetrable dome. So, which we know is a firmament. Great topic. Looking forward to it. So, thanks again for the introduction, Vikka. And if we want to find truth, we got to find truth in the Holy Scripture and in flat Earth. There's the only two things about it. Truth has two components. Truth has the Holy Creator, and it has the flat Earth, period. Truth has two components, and that is it. If we're going to find truth, we cannot find truth in the Holy Creator without the flat Earth, because we live upon the flat Earth. Page 1 of the Holy Scripture is the flat Earth. There you go. Back to you, Vika. Thanks.
Welcome, welcome, Rob. It's always great to have you, brother. And my next co-host, everybody knows him too. Genie, how are you, Genie?
Hey, Vikka, what's up, my brother? Thanks for the invite. I've been excited all week. Like Rob said, this is an amazing topic, and I'm excited to cover it. There's so much that we could talk about, different areas and things that have been done in recent times, in the past, throughout all the history books. They talk about what we're going to talk about tonight, and their story is off at best. It's just wrong. It's wrong, and we're going to try and show you ways to poke holes in the fabric of space tonight, guys. And thanks for being here, everyone in the audience. It's really great to see you all. Thanks for spending your time with us, and we're having just as much fun as you guys are. Thank you very much, and it's good to see everybody on the panel. Kevin, great to see you again, brother. You got to get back more, man. Eddie's in Japan. He just got over being not feeling well. It's great to see you feeling better. And Matthew, it's always great to see you, brother. Rob, here we go, buddy.
It's
Oh
time to
yeah.
rock and roll. Yes.
And then our next guest, everybody know him too from Flatten the Curve, Flat Savant, Mr. Kevin Bobbick. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the proper introduction. Really appreciate it. Was told about the subject from you quite a few days ago, so I'm quite excited to talk about it. And I'm very honored to be on the platform with all you guys. This is going to be a cool time, and thank you everyone that's listening. We hope to educate all of you in a very light way. Light being the light. And also, thank you, Eddie, for getting on the platform today. Really appreciate you. We know you're a busy man, and you've been going through a lot. You're on a very different timeline than all of us, but shout out to every single one of you. Matthew, this is our first time being on together. Rob, always a pleasure. Spend hours a week talking to this guy. Gene, you're the man. Vikka, thank you yet again. Right back to you.
Awesome, brother. Welcome again. It's great to have you, Kevin. and
Thank you.
our next guest is, everybody know him too. He has an awesome is an author of an awesome book called 16 Emergency Landing that proved flat Earth, and also from the channel Flat Earth Banjo, Brazil and Japan. And amazing, he's a non-stop content creator, truther, and it's always a great pleasure to have him too. Eddie Alankar, how are you, Eddie?
Fine, Vika. Thank you for introduction. Hello, everyone. Kevin, Jean, Matthew, pleasure, and Rob. So the topic today really interesting. I have studied a little bit before. I don't know as much as you guys, so I'm more like a listening guy today than speaking. But know a little bit. There is this author called I think William Burroughs. He spent time with the Apollo 11 guys, and he was supposed to write a book. And he did write a book called Oceans, and he said that being with the Apollo 11 people from NASA, it was like being with members of a religion because they are all talking about science fiction. They all read H.G. Wells and Julio Verne's, all that stuff. So there's a lot of fiction in the space program. Okay, so it's a pleasure to be here, guys.
Awesome, brother. And our final guest for tonight, you all know him too. He's been joining us from last few lives podcasts. Matthew, how are you, Matthew? Okay, looks like we have
Hello.
a audio
Thank you,
problem.
Vika, for inviting. Hello to you. Hello to Kevin. Can
I can't
you
hear
hear me?
Matthew.
You're breaking up, Matthew. All right, try again, Matthew.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now, yeah.
Hello?
Yep, go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah, my mic is on.
Now you sound better.
Okay, yeah, it says that my mic is on. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me back. Yeah, hello to everybody. Hello to you, Vika, Kevin. It's nice to finally have a chance to talk with you. Nice to meet you. Gene, it's always great talking with you, man. Hello, Rob. Hello to you. And Eddie, man, nice to finally have a chance to talk with you. Glad you're feeling better. Awesome. And I like that video, Voices from Across the Realm. I was glad to be a part of that video. And awesome. Thank you. Stay on topic with what we're talking about. And that's about it. All right, back to you, Vika.
All right, Matthew, it's great that you're here, brother, again. And jumping into the show, what Eddie mentioned before about the science fiction, Arthur C. Clarke, I think so. And you guys know about this movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. This was the real color sci-fi movie that it took a lot of people's mind because it was something for its generation that the people were like hallucinating in a way that like, wow, they look so real, the space is real. And the way they were trying to show the gravity stuff and everything very high tech. For I personally know a lot of people who was really really impacted that movie in the life of because it made them think this is so real. Arthur C. Clarke, and then we have another Stanley Kubrick. So they started this science fiction thing with magazines, with movies, and they just invented the satellites and all these things floating, and the people were so hooked up that the whole entertainment industry is based upon this even till today. And the people are so indoctrinated that even if it shows that it's a science fiction, but the people think it's real. People still think that's what really is happening. That's why it's all those. We are speaking about $3 to $4 billion to maintain that junk metal we have there up called ISS.
You mean the International Swimming Station? Because it's all done in a pool. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Even Hollywood says that. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, they're from Southern California with you out there, Matthew. Even they're from Hollywood, and they say it themselves. Even they know it.
And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the origins of satellites actually comes from a science fiction book.
Arthur C. Clarke, exactly. Yes.
He's very influential.
And by the way, along with that, I myself have studied the quote space program of satellites as an Army aviator, as U.S. Army aviator. I have more knowledge than most. I mean, most people, because I've studied it personally. I've interacted with it in combat scenarios and with satellites as well.
Awesome.
You guys have heard about some satellite that fall few days with the balloon. I don't know. I think it was Australia or somewhere just last week. And in the news, they are literally saying the satellite fall, and it's a piece of crap with a helium balloon. They are literally showing the balloon with those solar panels and those box and calling it satellites.
Yep. I will tell you this. Anybody can look up the definition of satellite. Anybody can look it up right now. And I would welcome anybody to go to your computer, look up any internet search, look up definition of satellite. And what you'll find is nothing. You will find that there really is no definition of satellite. Okay, number one. Number two, the military's definition of satellite, and I recognized this while I was sitting in my desk as a graduate instructor, and I also recognized it as up to the year 2007 as a combat pilot and combat pilot trainer, is that the definition, the U.S. military, the U.S. government definition of satellite can include a flying insect above your kitchen table. The definition of satellite, if you want to find it, I mean, by the U.S. military, defines anything flying over another surface. Now, think of the drones that the U.S. military flies over things for visual intelligence. Well, those meet the definition of satellite. And the reason for that, and now I've learned this later, right? We all know that the definition of a satellite is something that moves over the land. And the balloons that they have hanging, or the cameras with their solar panels hanging from balloons, that's exactly the kind of satellite that they're describing. It does not describe something that's floating in space, because we know space doesn't exist, and we're going to get to that point. But the definition of satellite sounds like something like a bird flying above a parking lot, or an insect flying above your kitchen table. There you go.
That's how they muddy the waters and make it confusing. Being
yes,
vague,
absolutely.
double speak.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yep.
Truth in plain sight.
They define something so obscure, and then they talk about it as if it's just this big program, but in reality, the actual definition is we can't even put a pin on it. In other words, can't even find it.
Yeah, it's like the singularity. It's non-local.
Yeah,
So
there you go. Right?
There's so many definitions for the singularity. It's crazy.
The singularity, which is the infinity, right? It goes in the figure 8 symbol, right? And there's no definition for it. There you go.
Yeah.
Bunch of smoke and mirrors. Absolutely.
That is, and they say that gravity caused all matter to crunch into an infinite point of nothingness, and one of the biggest sizes I heard them give was it couldn't have been smaller than a human. It's like, and then I heard it was smaller than an atom. And by the way, they try to tell us that you can fit 5 quadrillion atoms on a speck of dust. So have fun with thinking about that if you never heard that.
Okay,
one.
Exactly, right. But then it all came from nothing anyway, right?
Oh yeah, well, yeah. So and then they're just crazy about how they talk.
It's double think. It's double speak and double talk.
It's
yes,
psychobabble.
Voila. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. They're crazy.
They take a lot of money from the tax dollar and from companies, from telecommunication companies, and for research, and that we are putting satellites through rockets in the space. But the whole thing that is working, the communications and everything, if there is some influence of us about other than the ground towers, is these satelloons, and it's provable, and we have a lot of info and a lot of content on this about how all these communications work, be it telegraph, be it telephone, be it internet line, be it sea under cable, be it these towers, be it the satelloons. There is no real use of these fake satellites, so
all you really have to do is just Google satellites and click on images. And then all you see is a bunch of CGI images. Like, they have no one real picture. And once you do that, that's just a complete giveaway from the beginning, in my subjective opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Definitely.
there you go. I'm looking at it right now. It's nothing but CGI.
Yeah.
There you go. You got a bunch of, you're looking at satellites with the huge globe Earth behind it or below it, but in reality, what's taking all these photos? Right?
Rob,
Number one,
Rob,
it's all CGI bullshit.
Exactly, Rob. Are any of those images authentic?
Exactly. They're obviously CGI. And what does NASA Robert Simmons say anyway? It's all Photoshop, and it has to be.
Yeah, they paint what they think we want to see. What they think we think it's going to
Right.
look like.
Yeah.
That's how
Well,
they paint.
they paint what they want the public to think, and then they train the public like rats to believe it. There you go. We call it, and you've all heard of this, a self-licking ice cream cone. That's what it is. Perfect definition. There you go.
That's funny.
Also, Rob, we can go to just what the materials that a satellite's made out of: titanium, nickel, cadmium, aluminum, barium.
Okay.
And then you look at the altitude that the supposed satellites.
The supposed temperatures up there, right?
Exactly. And then you go to the melting points. You go to the melting point. Well, let's just go to the temperature of the thermosphere to begin with. It's at about 932 degrees Fahrenheit to 3,632 degrees Fahrenheit. Then you go to the melting points of titanium, which is 3,000 degrees. Also, when it comes to nickel and cadmium, 2,651 to 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Aluminum and barium are in between 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit and 23 degrees Fahrenheit. So if I were to slow that down a little bit, you would have realized that even the melting points of the metals that they say satellites are made out of can't even exist in the thermosphere that supposedly they're floating at.
Exactly. Yep. Well said.
But how'd they do the Parker space probe? Parker drives me up a wall that people defend this space station at the sun, you know.
The word Genie, the word says it all. The word probe said is all. It's freaking probing all the globe stars.
It's not a probe.
Exactly.
Oh, that was good. That was a good one, Vikka. Thank you.
Man. But it does. It drives me up a wall, just like parallax on the stars. There's like zero parallax, and it just drove me crazy. This can't be that way. That nothing moves up there like this year after like 12,000 years of recorded history. The stars have been in the same place, and that's
and good point there, Gene. You just reminded me. With all of these hundreds of thousands of satellites supposedly floating by, no one has ever seen them cross the moon.
Right.
Oh, Rob, you broke up. We don't hear you.
Okay. This should be better. That working better?
There you go.
No.
Okay, you're right. What I was getting at is what Gene mentioned, all the satellites, and there's supposedly hundreds of thousands of satellites, literally from close to far, and this big belt of satellites all around us. But as we look at the moon, we don't ever see any of them. No one's ever seen a photo of these things, right? If these aliens exist, no one's ever seen a photo of an alien. No one's ever seen a photo of a satellite either. There you go.
What about?
And by the way, if you don't mind, let me just throw this out. Yeah. The anagram from which alien came from is Elohim. Everybody with me here? Alien is a Luciferian anagram directly taken from Elohim. And if you can look that up on the internet, it's all over the place. I looked it up one day. There's hundreds of posts on it.
For sure.
Exactly.
Vic, if you don't mind,
go ahead, Kevin.
Concluding on satellites real quick. There's a guy named David Adar. He's a materialist, a materials specialist from NASA, who specializes on space debris. Right? So we have all these thousands of satellites that are supposedly orbiting Earth faster than a speeding bullet, that don't have to do with UV rays, gamma rays, Van Allen belt, infrared, none of this. But satellites still exist, though, right? In outer space,
exactly.
Right? Or the thermosphere.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to add, because apart from the satellite, we have all those space junk, and nothing is crashing into each other. And in the spacewalks, we see a clear black sky with not even a dot behind. and how they want us to believe there are thousands of debris which is surrounded the Earth, and in between this chaos, the satellites are functioning and perfecting, and these people are
Yeah.
controlling. Yeah,
And yet, when we drive outside of the cities on the highways, when we go out in the hinterlands, there's no cell phone coverage. With all these satellites all over everywhere, we can literally drive places where we don't have cell phone coverage. And we all know this, that when the airplanes do their intercontinental flights, their radio coverage ceases, and they have to go on dead reckoning. They do not have they do not have any type of radio coverage, or satellite or anything else. They don't have any coverage. In other words, with all these satellites, there's all these dead zones all over the place.
In the middle of the ocean, is that right, Rob?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
That's crazy.
Literally, there's plenty of videos on these that show that you can track. Literally on the videos, you can track when the plane departs Miami, for example, but when it heads out over the Pacific, that beacon drops off because there's no coverage. There's nothing to read that beacon when it's going over the international oceans. And Eddie's one of our big guys on that. But go ahead, Gene. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vikka.
exactly, because it's all about triangulation, and we know, Rob, that it's all about triangulation, and the triangulation of communication and the VORs and everything is because it's on land base. Okay, so that's why these people are flying like on dead reckoning, because there is no way.
Reckoning. Yes.
And the excuse they give is because there should be an hour distance of airport to fly. You cannot fly 1 hour away from any airport or any runway. The same excuse they give for Antarctica also, but it's not the case. It's because there is no triangulation happening. There is no places. These places are so remote that there are no towers. So that's why most of the routes are the fixed routes, because there is where you have the connection for the VORs to continue from one VOR to the second. So yeah, it's all about triangulation. So the satellite is no use. Yep, go ahead.
And by the way, I want to add this. This triangulation that you're talking about, Vikka, you're absolutely correct. We all know it. The helicopters that flew in Vietnam, this technology, the triangulation technology, was equivalent then. This technology goes back to those days, and even before. This technology is nothing new. I mean, it's to the point that the U.S. Army and the helicopters flying in Vietnam, they were triangulating their positions using FM radios. Okay, there you go. What people call GPS positioning, the maps on our phones, they're nothing more than triangulation from FM radios. There you go.
What year was this?
Exactly.
What year was this used in the military, Rob?
Well, Vietnam was the 1960s. Okay,
what's the year of FM radio?
FM radio? Well, gee, pre 1900.
So yeah, see, that just debunks itself.
It is. It really is. Yes. What we're seeing now, and now I'll tell you all. Just a reminder. I studied industrial engineering, weapons, ballistics, etc. at my engineering degree, West Point Military Academy. It continuously amazes me to learn of the true technology that existed in the 1940s. Now, what that means is 1920s, 30s, and 40s the world saw phenomenal technology emanating from the U.S. production system. The technology that existed in the 1940s knocks my socks off. And to see that here we are in 2020, we're not very much farther, okay? We're not very much farther than 1940s technology. So what we have now is only a little bit different than what they had available to them in the 1940s.
Exactly. It's just a bit digitalized. That's it. It's the same technology. Even if you speak about the same thing when we spoke about the ham radio and the LoRaN, it's all also it's just happening with triangulation. So the satellite is not doing anything that we could think of. The problem with satellites, or we could say satellites is we have to find a real use. The day we find a real use that is logical and we could see that it's really used like that, maybe we could think that it exists. But till date, with all our research and with all our investigation, we are still waiting for that, to find that use. Go ahead.
Yes, indeed.
So, what do you think they're using these satellite balloons?
Sorry, I didn't hear you clearly.
I can tell you the Corona program, and I can send this out. Anybody can find it. Look up the Corona program, early 1950s. The U.S. government used Corona program they would launch balloons in the jet streams, launch them really high to observe Russia. The U.S. military would launch balloons with these observing cameras, so they would float over Russia and take photos of Russian military. That's where it started.
Why would we still be using them to this day, though?
I'm not sure if I really believe that.
Because it's functional.
Excuse me, them. Let's not put us in the same
category. Yeah. It's because it's the only thing is functional. That's the reason,
cheap.
Kevin.
It's cheap. Yeah, cheap and it's functional. And the U2, there are the U2 planes, but those are expensive. And imagine the pilots to put a bunch of U2s out there. The balloons, you could throw those up there a dime a dozen, if you see what I mean.
Yep.
Whereas the U2s, those are expensive. You got to pay for the pilot, and if he gets shot down or crashes, you got to pay his life insurance and take care of his family, etc. A, B, and C. That's a big deal. The balloons, and I mean the balloons with these cameras on them, they're cheap. They're a dime a dozen.
You know, I got a question though. I don't think we're fighting with Russia. I don't think we ever were. So I don't think that's the purpose of them.
Well, that's correct. I say this was in the 50s during the Cold War. All that purpose has changed. That's the origin. Okay, that's the origin of it. Now they use them to observe what you're doing in your backyard. You see what I'm saying?
That's what I think. I think that I don't think they're fighting. I really don't. I don't think they're fighting at all.
No, they weren't. They never were.
They're sharing information, and if it was a test, it was just a test to see if they could find out, what year the quarter is on the ground from 250 miles.
Right.
That's all they were doing. So they made it look like we're doing this. We're going to protect you. We're sending them over there. I think it's just a story to make it look cohesive.
Definitely. Vikka Draziv actually posted a great video on how they're launched and like the distances and like the altitude and how easy it is to do it. If you wouldn't mind posting the link after this, Vikka, that'd be great.
Because in reality, the satelloons are only flying towers. That's all it is, and it's doing the same job. That's what they're doing, the same job and nothing else. And this technology is really advanced, right, than all the 60s and the 70s, because now they are tracking each other and lining up with the help of lasers, so and I'm having a lot of echo.
Okay, I can add this. I know one of our flat Earth guys he's a former airline pilot. When he would land to islands, he would have to have satellites on his GPS receiver. At least 3 of them. Okay, we know now what these satellites are. They're just balloons. We know the wind can blow them out of place at any time. So his requirement, he could not, okay, let me say this again. He could not start his approach until he had at least 3 balloons locked in. 3 satellites, okay? 3 satellites. His GPS receiver was locked on to receiving indicators from 3 different satellites before he could execute his approach. And here's why. The indications, the signals from the satellites, I say quote satellites, told him his direction and his altitude. and so he could make his approach to the island. And now
exactly, Rob. And the reason we have the internet on the planes now. Why didn't we have internet before on the planes? It's because this satellite technology is getting better. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
There
point.
you go.
Good
Yep.
point.
Absolutely. Because now they've got the internet up there passing between. They got a network between the balloons. There you go. Simple as that, right? That's
Right.
what it is. There you go.
Awesome.
But even
So
so,
anybody can. Oh, and by the way, I just saw another video came in on my. I have many. I'm watching several different things. Either it's YouTube or on Facebook. Another Satelloon, right? Another one crashed. There's videos all the time. A lot of them crashing in Brazil. At least 2 have crashed in Brazil. One crashed a few weeks ago in Wisconsin. So these things are falling all the time.
Yeah.
And I can say this. I've read extensively through because I was quite interested in how these pilots do it. It's quite extensive. If anybody's interested, you can look up the Corona program. There's a PDF on there that describes, this guy told all about it. There was an extensive flight training program, and the pilots, they got bonuses, or they got elevated in their units if they could catch these balloons coming down out of the sky. This was no secret. If their whole crew, they would go through days of this training that they would have a mock balloon, a satellite balloon, okay, falling through the air as if it was like if it had a hole in it or something like that, because they fall all the time. So what they had to train the crew. Now, not only the pilot had to fly the thing, and the crew in the back had to go by and catch the thing, because think of it, you've got the parachute or you've got the balloon. By now, if it's falling down, it's streaming, which means the weight below it, it's falling to the earth, and it's really thin. It's got this plume of the balloon, and then it's got the strings, right, the lines that hold it, and so they would drop this parallel bar underneath them, and the pilot would have to fly that bar and catch the thing enough so the balloon would double back, and the weight would, and they would catch it. If you see what I mean? And the only way to catch this thing was the pilot had to fly at just the right altitude, so that bar would catch the thing, and the balloon would double back on it. It was quite an extensive process, and so the crew would train on this hours and hours, days and days at a time, and you can read the whole PDF about it. So it's quite an extensive process, and it's quite a deliberate thing.
Rob, didn't that happen in the movie Air Force One?
It might have. I don't remember. I haven't watched movies regularly since 1991, so sorry, I can't tell you.
Well, I was just talking about science fiction to begin with.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure it probably did. Feel free. I mean, and talk about it, but it probably did. But what I'm getting at is it was quite a deliberate, and when I say deliberate, there were entire units set up to go out and catch these things because they were falling all the time. Now everybody can imagine this. If that balloon is coming, let's say they released it in Eastern Europe and it flew all the way across Russia, and now it's coming across Alaska. It's in the ocean, and it's going to drop. The U.S. military does not want that to fall in the ocean because that's high dollar information on there. They got millions of dollars in this program, right? So literally, they're spending a lot of money, and they've got battalions of, and I mean flight units set up. When these things start radioing in that they're losing altitude, well, these pilots not just the pilots, but the entire flight crew, they get scrambled to go up there and catch this thing. And they get really big and famous real fast if they catch one. And this guy talked about how they caught one. They lost the first one, but then they caught the second one. So they're really happy about it. That's high dollar information on there to catch this. So as you all can imagine, what I'm describing is it's a high value and high priority government operation. This the Corona program. Okay, it was a big program, and now they've just expanded it. If you see what I mean, that's all I've done. It's taken that and made it much bigger and much wider, and it's all around the world.
Exactly. So even the GPS, as we know, that is also a bullshit. We know is in reality it's also ground
Yeah.
based, and the
Yep.
LORAN and the ham, and so the satellite, it's a myth, and it's gonna be a myth. Okay, plus
Yeah.
CGI. Okay, let's jump on to the clown show of the rocket launches. So
Well,
we know
Yes.
we know NASA is the consumer of helium,
The
the
biggest in the
highest
world.
consumer of helium. Yeah. So what are they sending up? Apart from these Satelloons, some of these rockets, what they launch, it looks like a helium more than, because if you really see the sizes of this craft, they're quite huge. And there are some videos and some footage where it's just flying like a piece of cloth. It just crashes like a piece of
Absolutely,
cloth in
Vikka.
some places. So
definitely. So,
I
sorry to overtalk. Matthew, Gene, Eddie, do you have anything to add?
I would
Um,
say, first of all, that how can all the tons of weight get lifted up so slowly by those furious
Yeah.
fire rocket engines? It's just like, whee. It's so soft and
and
beautiful. And
speaking of that, Gene, has anyone seen the videos? I've posted several videos on my Facebook encyclopedia pages. If you look at it, the big space shuttle, when those I say again, when the fires start, when the fires start below it, the thing lifts up a couple inches.
and it
If you
comes back
watch the
down.
video, yes, that's what I'm talking about, Gene.
No,
I'll
it
let you
don't.
talk about it. Yeah, yes, it goes up and then it settles back down a little bit. It's simply incredible. And then if you
Seen
look,
that.
there's other videos that show the nose cone of the thing, and the thing is wobbling left and right, 2 or 3 inches left and right. All it is, it's one big balloon. It's a BFB. It's a big freaking balloon. And now we can think about this. Everything we've ever seen our entire lives, all it is, all those rockets we ever saw, big balloons. That's all they are. They're tightly filled helium balloons. And you know what I'm going to call it? A Chinese rocket show. That's all it is, guys.
That's funny. Matthew, do you have anything to add?
Chinese fireworks show. That's what I meant to say. Chinese fireworks show.
Matthew? Excuse me, Matthew, you there?
Yeah, just like my whole life seeing rocket launches, I always wondered why they would. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Hey, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
yeah, we can.
Yeah, I'm here. My mic says it's on. Can you
You're
hear
good to
me?
go, brother.
Yeah, keep going.
Is your
Hello.
volume on?
Yeah, it says my mic is on.
Yeah, you're good.
Can you hear
brother.
me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it says my mic's on. The rocket, when it's launching, it curves with our eyes. The rockets, the trajectory, it starts to curve.
Very
And
quickly.
my whole life, I was wondering, why it curves. And then that's all fantasy. That's make believe. I mean, if we can see many miles in the distance, right? If we could see something that's like, say, 100 miles away, and then when a rocket launches, it goes up and starts to think that it's going up.
It's
or
called
somehow leaving.
It's called a
This
parabolic flight.
where we are. Learning about flat Earth, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, NASA was just lying about everything. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Matthew, tell us why it curves.
Rocket launches are
And I'll say this.
like that. Why all the video from what they show us is all
Okay, before we get into why
The
it curves
balloons
when it
idea
goes
of
up.
satellites being on balloons, I agree that that is very.
Continue,
Go ahead,
Matthew.
Victor.
No, continue, and then I'll.
Yeah,
I just wanted to hear Matthew's
parabolic
opinion and then
flight.
also Eddie's opinion as well.
All right. Yes. Before we continue, Eddie, also you give your thoughts of what we have already discussed, and then we're gonna go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm looking for the picture. If any of you guys know, I saw a couple of years ago
Yeah.
of a
Oh,
Russian
I'm sorry. I
rocket.
was just.
Yeah, this Russian rocket, it folded in half. I think it was ready for launching the next day, and overnight it leaked all the helium, and the rocket in the morning was folded in half. So it's clearly a
You,
balloon. Yeah, I've seen this picture a couple of years ago. If anybody can find it, post it on the groups because I need that picture actually.
I never saw that. That's hysterical.
Yeah, it's a Russian rocket, a big rocket, and next morning it was folded in half because it leaked all the helium. Yes.
Was it like
Yes.
before or after the launch?
yeah, it
No, it
deflected.
was before. They set it up, and the next morning the rocket was folded in half.
Are
They
you
leaked
kidding me?
the. Yeah. There is this picture. It's a Russian rocket back in the 60s, I guess, 50s or 60s. It's a
Are you
black
talking?
and white picture.
It's not the
Oh yeah, I know which one it is. Yep.
It's not the oh, I can't forget the name.
I saw it a couple of years ago. I think Dave DeWise had it on somewhere also, but I can't find it that picture anymore, and I need it.
The V2W
Well,
rocket, or what is it called? What was it, that
It
one?
it's a Russia. It's a
Oh no, it's
Russian
Russian.
program.
Russian. Yeah,
Russian.
that was outside of here in New Mexico. My bad.
Yeah,
well, hey, if
Soviet
anybody
program.
gets it, please send it to the Vika podcast messenger
Right.
group.
Yes.
Now, if you don't mind, let me throw this out. I've watched several videos of the early rocket launches, and I'll assume that everybody's seen them. They go up, and a lot of them they go cock screw all over the place. They go at different angles, and they blow up.
Yes.
And you know what? Now I'm figuring out why. Here's why. Because they were in the beginning they didn't have a good mix between the helium balloon and the rocket burners beneath. When they all went off different angles and exploded, it's because they had too much pressure from below pushing up the helium balloon. If you see what I mean, that's why they went all cockscrewy. So it took them a while to get the balance down between the amount of force they needed from below to match the helium balloon or the thing rising. If you see what I mean, they had to get the mixture just right. That's why those things exploded so much because they were fake burners beneath and with the helium balloon above. Makes complete sense now.
Exactly, Rob. That's why there is time where you can see the flame, and after some time there is no flame and there is smoke, and then it just crash, and it's just falling at free fall speed. That's what is happening. If you see the whole launch from the time it starts, they start with their water and the fake smoke, and it's and once you start going, that's the whole routine of every rocket they launch. After 2 or 3 seconds, it's already turned. It bangs a bit, because it can't just go with that helium fuel they're having, and you can see, okay, there is some kind of flames. But this is the thing: once it's reached, it goes and it turns into a smoke because there is no more fuel, and then after some time, there is no even smoke, and it split into this detach. How they call that? They call them detach itself, the rocket, into 2-3 pieces. What is happening is it's crashing down, and at that part, exactly at that part, they are showing us the down view of the Earth of this rocket detachment. Why the hell they're not showing us the up view where the rocket is heading?
Yeah,
right?
that's a good point. They never show looking up, do they? Exactly. And because here's why, Vika. If they did, we know that if they look towards the top of the balloon, they would be looking out to the ocean, to the Bermuda Triangle, because it's heading for the ocean. That's why.
Exactly.
Brett,
Exactly.
Brett Freeman actually said something similar when it came to the Flatten the Earth documentary, when it came to attack missiles. Do you guys remember?
Right.
I don't remember. Go ahead. Say again, Kevin.
Whenever Brett Freeman was talking about attack missiles that are leaving a boat.
No, it's
Okay.
not Brett. Maybe it's Jay. Maybe it's Jay.
Maybe,
if it has to do with
You're right.
Sorry. Maybe it was Jay. So sorry.
On the documentary.
Yes.
Indeed. Well, I can tell everybody this. This was, let's say, March of 1996. There I was, Cape Canaveral, Florida. I watched the quote space shuttle departed. This was at 2 or 3 in the morning. Okay, this was dark at night. The thing makes this big rumbling sound, and I guarantee you, it was just a bunch of speakers over there. I mean, electric speakers like you're on your stereo speakers. Okay, this thing lifted off. It got about 2 miles up in the air, something like that, and then it turned at least 75 degrees and headed out over the Atlantic Ocean. Exactly what everybody says. It was heading for the Bermuda Triangle. Literally almost did a 90-degree turn and went straight out over across the Atlantic Ocean. We were dumbfounded. We wondered, why is it doing that, not going straight up? And they made some excuse about rotation of the Earth, blah, blah, blah. But we all know now, they were going out, that thing headed out to the Bermuda Triangle, it splashed down. There you go.
So they were telling you it's the Coriolis effect.
Yeah. You know,
Bullets and rockets.
and gravity. Okay, gravity. Always remember gravity in there somewhere.
Yep.
Right. Gravity, Coriolis.
I remember being a kid asking, why don't the rockets go straight through instead of curving? And the teacher told me, well, because it's like a needle going in your arm. You don't go straight in. And if they tried to go straight into the atmosphere, the pressure would blow them up, she said. So now she was explaining to me that they hit the firmament if they go straight into it. They can't fly into it.
Wow,
They're going to hit something, right? So that's how she explained it. They have to go in on an angle, otherwise they're going to hit the atmosphere where the atmosphere ends. and like now we know that it's in a gradient decrease in pressure, so there is no real end to it. It just fades away to nothing because of gravity. So that those weird stories stick out to you for reasons. Spirit's talking to you when you remember weird stuff like that. I think is totally false.
Definitely.
I couldn't wait to get to 4th grade and 3rd grade for these subjects, and it was just sort of disappointing.
Exactly. This clown show is so easy to debunk from NASA, especially all these launches too. So what they are doing is there are people who are working for NASA, this small-time job, fixing things here and there. They use the word gravity, they use the maths, they use orbital speed and velocity and all this stuff. That could make sense, for that clown show for these rockets to just go up a little bit, turn a bit, and then just crash and explode or go into the Bermuda Triangle. That's the only show they try to keep it that the people could hang on to something, so because everybody say the whole world have to be on it. Yeah, they have to give jobs to the people. They have to have something to support that is physically happening there. As even Rob mentioned, with speakers doing the sound, with the helium balloons, all the water, the smoke, and this trajectory, this bullshit trajectory it takes, and the minute it lasts till it goes into the ocean. What happens is after they show us all this detaching of the rocket, and after that point, what we see, the rest is CGI. It could be a mission to Mars, it could be a mission to the moon, it could be just a satellite launch. but everything is prepared for the CGI part of it, because they show you this 2-minute clown show, and the rest is all CGI and speculation and pseudoscience, pure pseudoscience. Okay, so
Look at the effort they're willing to take, though, to try and disguise this. Do you know what I mean? That's what should make all of us feel special, even just right now being on this podcast, speaking truth and speaking the knowledge that we know, and decoding the literally crap out of it. Sorry for lack of better language, but they want to hide this so much. They have so much money involved that they're putting so much money into other different organizations and projects just to decode the bigger picture. Or, my bad, to disguise the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's the ministry of truth, Kevin. You're exactly right. The ministry of truth is like the ivory tower. Take all instructions from the tower. Gee, has anybody gone through a military firing range? You don't fire you don't do target practice. When we're firing our army weapons, we take all instructions from the tower, like the ivory tower. That's exactly, it's the ministry of truth is what it is. The ministry of truth house. Remember the book 1984? They're directing everything. It's like the Tower of Sauron, the Eye of Sauron. That's what it is.
Exactly. But
Voila.
If we want to stay on topic when it comes to the origins of outer space being science fiction, if you don't mind, Vikka.
go ahead.
You might have to correct me a little bit on the pronunciation of one word, Rob, if you don't mind. There's this book I've had for quite a while. It's called The Elegant Universe. And then you skip to the Big Bang chapter, and I'll just go ahead and read it off the book. By looking out into the universe with their most powerful telescopes, astronomers can see light that was emitted from galaxies and quasars just a few billion after the Big Bang. This allows them to verify the explanation of the universe predicted by the Big Bang Theory back to the earlier phase of the universe, and everything checks out to a T, in quotation. Okay, so if it's billion years away and billion years before, how can they check it out with a T? I'll go ahead and conclude here, or I'll let me finish reading. To test the theory to yet earlier times, physicists and astronomers must take use of more indirect methods. One of the most refined approaches involves something known as cosmic background radiation. Does any of that really make sense when it comes to reality? They have to take a theory from way back in the origins of outer space, which is the Big Bang, and then take another theory that was based billion years before that to make it make sense, and then say it checks out to a T.
It's all theoretical. And remember what Michio Kaku says: the order of error of our system is one with 25,000 zeros behind it. Okay, that's our error. In other words, there is no end to their error. They don't. And he also say this: they don't use the scientific. They do not use the scientific process when it comes to cosmology. There is none. It's theory. It's all imagination.
Exactly. A universe predicted by the Big Bang Theory, backed by this early phase of the universe, and everything checks out to a T. How on God's flat green earth does it check out to a T if you guys are going back to something that's theorized a billion years ago?
Hey, you want to know something?
There you go.
I Googled the other day, how do they know how far the sun is? And they said, well, they check Venus. And I swear to God.
Okay. And Venus is what? A light in the sky.
Well, then I said, how do they know how far Venus is? They said, well, they check with another planet. And I was like, oh, God, look at this. And I just stopped there. And I was like, oh, I'm not.
It's all garbage.
Exactly. Adding to what Kevin was saying, it's everything is billions miles away. Everything is very far. They know everything very far what is happening. They just don't know what is happening here on this earth and around the earth. You know?
Yeah,
that's the problem with this pseudoscience and these theories. Yeah, and all the
billions of years, all these billions of light years, they know exactly what's going on Jupiter, okay? right? Doesn't it rain gold on Jupiter according to them? And they can't even predict the weather 5 minutes from now,
Oh, yeah.
right? They can't even predict the weather properly, but they know exactly what's going on out there billions of light years away. These liars. They're monkey liars is what they are.
They're monkey liars.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys listen to some of the chapters in this book, it's ridiculous. Like the string theory. We can go to quantum geometry, tearing the fabric of space, beyond string theory, the search of M theory, black holes, a string M theory,
Dark matter.
Why does it all have to do with theories?
Yeah. Because they have
Because
no
it is.
Right, Kevin? Kevin, tell us how many theories there are. When we go to space and we go to the military, and we go to university, the Luciferian University. Remember, university is an anagram of Luciferian, okay? University is an anagram of Luciferian, okay? The letters match up precisely, okay? Kevin, or anybody, how many theories are there? How many theories exist in the Holy Scripture?
Zero.
Zero.
Yes. Okay. We go to the university. We go to space. It's all theory. We go to the Scripture. Zero theory. The Scripture tells us how things are. Tells us how it is. Space tells us, oh well, it might be. They're dreaming. It's a bunch of bullshit.
This book is called
The
Elegant Universe by Brian Greene, which happens to be a national bestseller.
Yeah, because that only proves, Kevin, that only proves that how many sleeping, how many indoctrinated people are in this world. The bestseller about an elegant universe that don't exist, total pure sci-fi, total imaginary world, a fairyland, and it's the bestseller.
And then, the chances it rains into hands like mine, and I get to read it and decode it.
Oh yeah.
And all right, guys, I'm going to realize that this is garbage.
We're gonna take a short break, and we're gonna be right back, and we're gonna continue. We're having a really interesting conversation here, so we'll be back in 2 minutes, guys.
All right.
Okay.
All right, welcome back, guys, to the show. I'm gonna give a quick shout out to the people in the chat. There's Dr. Frankenstein. There was Genie Edited, was already there also. Siplater Sealy, Evelyn Gold, Jess Palmer, Effie Nation, Flatter Professor, J Daddy, and oh God. There are a few people from Facebook also, and there is Jess Johan's mom. Yep, some new faces too. Welcome, guys, to the show. We're having an awesome conversation here with our guests. We have Kevin Bobick, Rob Taylor, Jeannie Edited, Eddie Alankar, Matthew Hakim. We are trying to decode the hoax of space. So getting back to the topic, it's how the artistic impression these people have about the space, and in their whole science journal and all their pages and all their channel, they sell it like real images of NASA. And we all know it's art more than science there. 99% is computer generated images and art.
Or maybe 100%.
Photoshop, and it has to be. Now, let me tell you why. I know this from my military experience. You have battalions on the ground, divisions on the ground, depending on, quote, satellite information, okay, satellite intelligence. These guys know that it only comes across in 3-mile wide increments, and they have to wait for it to pass over, and then at a certain time, another one will pass over again. Okay, so take that it only comes in 3 to 5 mile wide strips. Okay, strips. And I studied this at West Point Geography. Okay, we knew this from West Point Geography. Now I go out to the fighting units, and they know it's only 3 to 5 mile wide strips. Now combine that with Robert Simon. He says, well, we get these strips of data, and we have to merge them together, and we have to invent what it would look like. So it has to be Photoshop. There you go. I've seen it 3 different ways, and so what he's saying is exactly right. Matches my experience, my professional experience exactly.
For sure. Do you mind if I go a little deeper?
Please do.
So I feel like it has such a strong impact and influential impact on people because of the movies. What was the movie you mentioned on the beginning of the podcast, Vikka?
2001 Space
2001.
Space Odyssey. You know what I mean? After you watch Space Odyssey, for me it was Armageddon. For me it was Armageddon, right? I was a little kid. I didn't know any better. But after I watched it, I had a spiritual, mental, and physical attachment to that movie. To that movie, not knowing that they were using the same tactics as MK Ultra, which is trauma-based mind control, which is mental, physical, and spiritual attachment. So that's why some people are so attached to outer space, is because they have more than just one element that they're attracted to. They're physically attracted to it. They're mentally attracted to it. Not only that, they're spiritually attracted to it as well. So
You're
now
right, Kevin.
More than that, that's why they call it a solar sphere, or what is it? It lures your solar. It lures your soul.
The solar system.
Solar system. That's what you're saying. Solar system.
Your soul to believe in this propaganda, anti-God belief system.
Kevin, you just nailed it. MK Ultra.
Kevin.
That's what they did.
That was really great.
We have to admit that the space was really addictive. Yeah, it was really addictive, and space sci-fi. Yeah, it's because you are lost into a world that you don't know, mystery, anything, whatever. We are the speck of dust, and it's very addictive. That's what it sells. That's what sells. And it was really well said, Kevin. Yeah, about the MK Ultra stuff. It has to be really well studied and investigated to put this in a way they put it out there, and all the Star Wars and all the crap we have, and so.
To make you emotionally attached as well.
Absolutely. Sure. That's what MK Ultra was all about. And because you said it right, space was edited. It was gene edited. I'm just pointing but it's all about MK Ultra, yes. And notice, just like some violence, some garbage myth that happened in Germany, 1942 to 1945. They put out new space movies all the time to keep the MK Ultra myth. Okay, and this new thing, Top Gun, that's just another MK Ultra bit. That's all it is, to keep it in the public mind. It's like Santa Claus.
I was actually going to mention that earlier.
There you
I was
go.
looking for a graph so I could send to Vikka on how many outer space movies they have actually produced since 2014, since the Flat Earth movement started. The increase on outer space movies has gone way through the roof.
Yep, there you go.
Because they knew the impact that we were going to bring.
Yes, good point there, Kevin. Yep, excellent. And you know,
guys,
they're working overtime behind the scenes to control the mind of the public. Absolutely.
Guys, the very first science fiction movie, I guess one of the first, it was in 1902, and it was called A Trip to the Moon. And you might have seen the moon with the rocket stuck in his eye. It's sort of comical, but it's interesting. It's a silent movie. And I don't know how old movies were before 1902. They didn't have much more than 10 or 20 years before that. They got right into the sci-fi, super, whatever you want to call that stuff, the psychological warfare at the time. And what I found interesting was that they had 6 moon landings with people on them, and 6 people got into this rocket and landed on the moon in that 15-minute movie from 1902. I just saw this 6 successful moon landings, and was sort of that I saw as a prediction.
It's pre-programming, brother. Yeah, it's pre-programming. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And remember, what's his name? The guy that ran NASA. Okay, he says that the Mars landings are going to be run by a guy named Elon Musk. Remember that? Same prediction there.
Yeah. Well, I think that was more the project. I think was called Elon. So that's how they throw us off, and people would defend that, saying, "Well, it's not a guy named Elon Musk, so you're wrong."
Yeah, whatever.
So it's not good enough. Look at the mountain of look at the mountain of circumstantial evidence right there alone that they overlook and defend for the other side, because of the programming. And like Kevin said, it's emotional, spiritual, psychological, visual. It's all
comprehensive. There you go.
Very, very deep. How they run it, Kevin.
Exactly, and
I'm really glad you were able to go inside yourself and overcome that, Kevin, because it's not easy all the time, bro.
Oh yeah.
That's a scary thing to do. Go inside yourself and let go of everything you think you know. It's not easy.
The thing is, they throw at you any imaginary fairy tale, and they just throw at you as pre-programming, and the people love it, and then they turn it into reality. That's what they do.
They landed on,
and if they can make few bucks and keep people lost, why not?
Yeah,
perfect combination.
It is. It's a beautiful setup they have right now, and it's been a long time. 1902, that movie, A Trip to the Moon, came out. Check it out, guys. You might see more than what I think I saw. 6 people getting in a rocket landing on the moon. And then this is what we basically have: 6 successful man missions to the moon. It's like, wow. And then you got 6 flags on the moon. That's great adventure. And NASA designs their stuff, so they're hand in hand right there. That's another flag. 6 flags, great adventure. 6 flags on the moon. I don't need to see a lot more before I start to be suspicious, and I don't know how people do. But Keith, how you doing?
Join us. Keith, how are you?
Hey guys, good to be with you all again. I caught a little bit of the show here and there while I was cooking dinner with the kids, but I'll just add my little talking points on this subject tonight. When I talk to people about this, I say, look, if space is real and if there's satellites out there, we would see dozens, if not hundreds of them transiting the moon almost every night. You never see a satellite transit the moon unless it's on a balloon. And then some smart aleck globehead wants to say, oh, well, here's pictures of the ISS transiting the moon. No, I didn't say a high altitude aircraft transiting the moon. I said a satellite. You'd never see satellites transiting the moon. And if space was real, we would also not need recon aircraft off of these Navy ships because they would use their satellite technology. But there's no satellite in space because there's no space. And then we also wouldn't need these buoys all over the ocean. There's basically a grid in the ocean of high-tech buoys telling the ships where they can and cannot go. So those three things for satellites, and then the one thing that I want to share, you guys probably covered this, but it's that Go Fast rocket. Did y'all talk about the Go Fast rocket?
No, go ahead.
No, we didn't hit that yet.
Yeah, the Go Fast rocket. It was the highest and fastest private rocket ever launched. I think it was 2014, but they launched it in Nevada, I believe it was.
No, it was outside of here of White Sands, New Mexico.
Oh, New Mexico. Okay. Well, two things about
Was that Mad Mike?
Hello? No. It was it's a very well-known video about a rocket hitting the dome. It says it's the dome. Yeah.
Well, that's the
Go
point.
ahead, Keith.
Okay.
Rockets don't have brakes that stop them quickly, and don't talk to me about D-spin pieces. That's not what we saw. We saw the angular and the forward momentum abruptly stop at allegedly 73 miles. So what did it run into? Was it a thick, heavy gas? Was it part of the rakia? Was it glass? Was it water? I don't know what it ran into, but obviously there's some type of barrier that we cannot get past. So every subject about outer space is just pseudoscience. It's just science fiction. And Gene, I heard you talking about a movie. There's another good one from the 1950s, right before NASA was started, called The Sky is Calling. And in that movie, they show a rocket landing back on the pad exactly like the stuff that we see from SpaceX. So it's all a show. I mean, everything about space.
What's that movie called?
It's called The Sky is Calling. And if you look it up, The Sky is Calling rocket landing, you'll see it, and it looks identical to what we see with FakeX. So those are my little talking points, guys. That's what I wanted to jump on and share. That's what I share with people all the time when the subject of space comes up. But I was glad to be able to jump in here with you guys. And Eddie, I haven't seen you here before. Eddie, I'm a big fan of your work. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Thank you so much.
His biggest fan. Go ahead, Eddie.
Thank you, guys. Well, I'm still trying to find the Keith. If you know, there's a picture of a Russian rocket shot, I think back in the 60s or something, that it folded in half because I think it was full of helium balloon. It was supposed to be launched the next day. The next day was half empty. So it was a picture. There's this picture. Vikka knows what I'm talking about. Trying to find. If you know, please post it on the chat, okay?
All right. I think I saw that on a video, Eddie. So I'm gonna see if I can find that video.
Okay.
There was one other thing.
And awesome.
About that.
Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
There was one other thing about that Go Fast rocket that's super interesting, and that is it was launched in New Mexico. It went up allegedly 70 miles. You can clearly look over and you can see the moon. But at that time of day, when the rocket was launched in the morning, the moon was over Australia. So there's no way that we could have seen the moon if the globe were true. But we all know the globe's not true. So the rocket went up only a measly 73 miles, and you could look over to see the moon all the way across the plain over Australia.
Me and Rob actually talked about that in a podcast recently.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome footage too because you can see there you don't see any curve, which is also very easy to see in that footage.
Right.
You know, apart from hitting it, it's hitting and crashing it with something. The more interesting part was about this: the whole black sky. You can see like the blue sky below and the horizon, like till 73 miles is full flat. You can see the sun. You can see the moon. The moon is much more higher, and you can see it's small, but it's there. Yeah, it's awesome footage.
Did you ever hear it? When it hits, it sounds sort of like water underwater.
It sounds like a toilet flushing.
Something. It sounds like water or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which way does it spin up there? If you flush a bowl in space, which way does it spin?
That was a funny joke if you get the Coriolis effect.
Yeah.
And another point, maybe it's true or not. This rocket was spinning all the time when it was going up. You know.
Yeah, that's normal. I was
That
I
keeps,
built
that's like a
rockets.
bullet. Helps.
For example, I built rockets in my grade school years, grades 4, 5, and 6. The rockets have those fins on them. They spin. Anything that's gonna, if you want anything to spin or to fly in a straight line, it's got to have that spin on there. By the way, but you know
Right,
what?
like a bullet, right,
I'm
Rob?
gonna exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
That's how bullets fly straight because they're spinning. If they don't fly straight, they're wobbling all over the place. That's the porpoise effect, which is well known. I'm gonna debate that 73 miles. They definitely not 73 miles high. It can't not have been that high.
Yeah, I question that
For
too, Rob.
example.
I
Okay,
think
very
What
good.
powered that? How is
Yeah.
that powered?
Imagination. Oh, you mean the rocket?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If you start looking into rocket building, Gene, anybody can look into it. Rockets are actually popular. You can there's all kinds of rocket material. There's
Right.
solid fuel rockets, and then there's liquid fuel rockets. You
Right.
can find them. They're as popular as radio controlled airplanes. There's got to be a huge market of them. And I only know this for going to grade school in the 80s. In the early 80s, I was building these things in grade school. So if I was able to do that then, I can only imagine what's available now. Okay. Now, Vika, I'm sure you're going to bring up the Operation Fishbowl. We're going to talk about that later on, right? Which shows that there's all kinds of evidence that Fishbowl, that firmament Rakia really does exist. U.S. government proved it, but I'll let you bring that up later, Vika.
Exactly. What I wanted to add before was also, as you were mentioning, the rocket is spinning to go straight as a bullet. So the fake rocket the NASA is sending, that's not spinning. So is another could be another point that it's a fake.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I actually just found this in the same book, The Elegant Universe. It has a little chapter called Spin. An elementary particle such as an electron can orbit an atomic nucleus in somewhat the same way that the Earth orbits of the sun. How are they going to compare of something that is in the smallest particle you can think of compared to something that's like the biggest spin that human history has ever even thought of?
It's because they're both imagination.
Bang.
Okay, got it? If you take a piece of gold, like take a sheet of gold, take it down as far as you can, and what you've still got gold. The electrons, neutrons, protons, those do not exist. It's all mythical. It's all alchemy. I know a woman. Her name is Michelle Richards. She listened to one of my podcasts that I did for myself, a webcast I did, and I talked about this, that the periodic table is nothing but modern alchemy. It's gematria. It's numerology. And she said, Rob, you're exactly right. She is a goldsmith herself. And she said, she gave me this huge compliment. She said, Rob, please package that and please send it out as an instruction video. That's the best discussion I've ever heard from a scientific discussion on what the periodic table is and how gold is gold and tin is tin and lead is lead. It never becomes anything else. The periodic table itself is complete garbage. More numerology.
Exactly. You can't compare something that's astronomical to something that's
something micro with the macro. Yeah, exactly right.
Thank you for taking the words out of my mouth. I appreciate you.
All right, so
add that to the savant vocabulary.
So let's speak as we are speaking about the space, the fake space. Let's speak about ISS, the International Swimming Station. So we were speaking about that. It takes, as Rob mentioned, so $3 to $4 billion to maintain this crap. Okay, that is traveling at 27,000 miles per hour. That's around 8 to 10 kilometers per second. Okay,
yeah, almost 5 miles. Yeah, they're crazy.
Exactly.
I don't know if it's 5 or 10 times faster than the bullet. and these people are flying that thing at 400 kilometers height.
And the arms on that thing are like antenna arms. They're flimsy and wobbly, and it's moving at that speed. And that's absurd.
It looks like solar panels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Complete absurd, because their best opposition on their discussion would be inertia, but inertia only happens inside of our thermospheres.
Exactly.
How
And the
does
centrifugal force. Yep, go ahead, Genie.
How does that thing steer?
Okay. Yeah, that too.
How does it stay in a circle? and
Right.
here's something else. You're moving at almost 5 miles a second, right? And now you got this other spacecraft with people on it going to meet up with this thing. How do they? That sounds just crazy impossible. Really, slow that down for a second. If they're off by a quarter inch, something's gonna go haywire, and it's all over. They're not gonna make it through. They can't reach something and dock with something doing 17,000 miles an hour.
Exactly, because it's imagine zero aerodynamics,
Right?
and at 17,000 miles an hour, docking with another one at that speed. It's impossible. It's totally science fiction.
No way.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever seen the bloopers of aircraft fueling aircraft in midair? They use like a magnet. Rob, you might know better. They use like a hose with a magnet, and some of the spills are just insane because they miss. They're doing 200, 250 miles an hour. Or 400. It's crazy to think. It's crazy to think that they can steer in a circle at any speed, or that's absurd.
It's a one big absurdity. And then let's talk about this.
How did they get to go that fast? And then they just stop accelerating. All this nonsense. It's just. I'm sorry, Rob.
Okay. Yeah. By all means. Here's the thing. We know the stealth bomber, the SR-71. That thing travels at less than 2,200 miles an hour. And look at the shape of it. Okay? Look at the shape of that thing. That's got knife edges, okay? It's circular where the engines are, where the crew compartment is. But other than that, it's a knife edge. Okay? Right. Now let's look at those. Let's look at those really fast, like those Mach 4, Mach 5 missiles. That's just a pylon with a nose cone with an engine behind it. Okay. Okay. Let's go on. The space shuttle is a Winnebago.
It's a brick.
It's a brick. And look at the thin sides it's got on it, and they want to tell us it's traveling 8 times faster than the SR-71, which is made out of titanium, by the way, and it's got every edge is a knife edge. And they're telling us this Winnebago is traveling 17,500 miles an hour. That's the biggest absurdity. The whole country should laugh at it.
The fact it makes it through the thermosphere, that doesn't even make it past the melting point of that to begin with.
That's not to talk about that's forgetting about the temperatures up there, which melt the tin of that thing. Incredible, just incredible. And as always, everybody, when we put the simple common sense test to any of this, it all falls apart like tinfoil in our hands. It all crumples up like tinfoil, the tinfoil that it is.
Exactly, and they also say that because of the similar like the geostationary satellites are maintaining that because of the gravity and the pull of the Earth. So the same way the ISS is doing this job. It's not possible. It's not possible. Centrifugal force. There are many different forces, and these people are doing jugglings and clown shows and inside the space station and dropping. There is no real science. And exactly, and at that speed they're moving through their space, and they're like, everything is just happening perfectly. They're not worried about nothing. It's a clown show, man.
They never show them docking either. They never show them going in and out of an air pressure.
Right, the airlock, the docking. No,
they don't do that. They always, if you guys, I would really strongly suggest to anyone out there, go watch the ISS live, because if they're traveling that fast, they're supposed to circle the entire Earth in 45 minutes. And when you watch them, you could sit there for half an hour and watch this thing, and they don't show nighttime into daytime often. You'll see that it's a real joke. It's impossible to show that video and really believe what they're doing.
Genie,
Yeah.
it's good that you brought this up, because this is the thing. There are many applications where they show you that the ISS is going to pass at this time, and many people see some lights in the sky, and they say, "Hey, look at the ISS." You know, if it's traveling at 70,500, it should zip through your fucking sky. You know,
Exactly.
at that speed.
And it's
Vikka,
And it's just flying like it's just flying at the same speed of a normal airliner. Okay, because try to see a ISS and try to look around if there's any plane, and you're gonna see it's more or less the same speed. It's not going at that hypersonic speed. It's not happening. So it's a fake stuff, you know.
check it out. This is out of the same book. But in the traditional point particle description of an electron, it would appear that there is no analog of Earth spinning around on its axis. How can you compare a molecular structure to an astronomical event to begin with? As I continue, when any object spins, points on the axis of rotation itself, like the central point of a spinning frisbee, do not move. But when it comes to a frisbee, it slows down and it speeds up when it comes down to the bends, just like the Earth should do whenever it comes down to the elliptical orbit. Am I correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Right.
And to make up those speeds,
and not only slow down, but change direction 180 degrees.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and if you take the 66,000 miles the Earth's traveling, so now you got to slow down and catch up. So you have to decrease and increase by an enormous amount of speeds. And they say it's just like centrifugal gravity.
It's absurdly incredible, the amount of speed and inertia we're talking about. And oh, by the way, why don't we see the water on our tables, right? Why don't we see our pendulums? We don't see anything about that on the Earth. We never observed any of it because it doesn't exist.
Exactly. If you don't mind me finishing this one sentence right here. If something is truly point-like through it has no other points, in quotation, the lie of any purportable spin axis, and so it would appear that there simply is no notion of point object spinning. Many years ago, such reasonable fell prey to yet another quantum mechanical surprise. So what happened to the analytic what is it? It's on the tip of my tongue right now. I was just on a roll for a second. Quantum mechanics.
Quantum entangled.
Yeah, which is one big myth. It's based on relativity, which is based on gravity, which doesn't exist.
After theory is what I'm reading right now.
Quantum mechanics, quantum theory, it's like cosmology. The order of the magnitude of error is 1 to the 25 zeros.
It's like comparing Earth's spin to analytic mechanics. You can't do that when it comes to physics.
You can't apply common sense, in other words.
They can't. I'm just using their science
exactly
against
what
them.
they do.
Right.
They try to show us this stuff on a chalkboard, and it doesn't exist. It only
it's a shell game. That's what it is. It's a shell game. Now, I'm speaking this to everybody. As a degreed engineer, I will tell you, if you can't figure it out for yourself, and if they can't tell you in one good sentence, then it's garbage. The basis of all science should be and is actually 2 + 2, and all math comes from that. All right. If they can't make it as simple as 2 + 2, where you can recreate it on one sheet of paper in a simple formula, then it's garbage. And that's what all the universities, I say again, all the Luciferian universities, Masonic degree universities are all based on that smoke and mirrors and behind the back theory.
That's why we use the scientific method, which is not a theory, which is observable, repeatable, testable, data hypothesis,
Of course.
conclusions.
Absolutely. I can show you on simple math in one equation the rate of descent of aircraft that would have to exist for aircraft flying at 2,100 miles an hour, let alone 500 miles an hour, and they're both impossible. Okay, and I can also show you the fanciful curve, the theoretical fanciful curve that requires the elevation at Kansas City, Missouri. If the Earth is a globe, 8 inches per mile squared, okay, the globe is the curve as we know. The elevation at Kansas City, Missouri, has to be 202 miles. I say again, 202 miles above sea level. I can show that to you using the simple Pythagorean theorem in one equation.
That is one of the best facts you've ever brought up to the globe Earth, in my subjective opinion, that I've run with.
It's powerful. It is powerful indeed.
Yeah, I just dump on everybody when it comes to them being a pilot. I'm like, oh, well, look at what my pilot friend thinks to have to think about the flight of descent.
Oh, yeah. I can write it for you on the back of a napkin. Okay, that's how simple it is. Whereas this rubbish theory, the bullshit theory, it takes some chalkboards and books to do it.
The truth is simple. The lies are complicated. That's why it's fake math, fake theory, fake formulas, fake inventions, fake. That's what they are working on, So getting back to the ISS. So anybody who claims, any globetrotters who claim that they have application and they see this, so we have that proof there. We can try to record this ISS, and if there's something else in the sky, and we're gonna see that is a bullshit speed. These are just drones or spy planes or solar planes, which they pass by according to the timing of the app. It's again another setup, another hoax for the people to grab onto. And the other thing I wanted to add is about the size of the ISS. The ISS is supposed to be the size of a football field. Okay, and when we see an airliner at 35,000 feet,
my God,
that's 10 kilometers, and we see it so small. And you imagine the ISS is supposed to be 400 times higher. How the hell are we gonna even see this, or any camera?
Exactly.
Or anybody can see with their eyes, normal eyes, passing to the sky. How is it possible?
Yeah.
400 kilometers.
Good point there, Vikka. When there are photos they try and show the thing crossing the moon, it doesn't match the proportion, Vikka. It's 100 times too big when they try and show it crossing the moon. You're absolutely right on that.
So what do you
Jeannie,
think?
go ahead. Okay, Keith, go ahead.
I mean, I have my opinions of what I think it is. I think it's just some kind of mocked up high altitude aircraft that maybe is 10 miles, 12 miles away.
That's all it is.
Maybe it's a U-2 spy plane. I don't know. But I just think it's a plane that's been mocked up. And like you said, because it looks almost like an airplane going across the moon. It's a little bit higher, a little bit faster maybe. But my best guess is it's just a high altitude aircraft.
What goes up must come down.
Exactly, and 400 kilometers, 400 times higher than whatever we are seeing right now. It shouldn't be possible to see. It's absolutely impossible to see that tiny
divide
stuff.
our vision, divide the dimensions by 400. Right there, you go. It doesn't exist. We can't see it.
Hey Rob, Vikka, Jeannie, Eddie, Matthew, Keith. What do you think about being a projection?
Project Blue.
Totally possible.
The hologram, of course, possibility.
Yeah, because the images, what these amateur photographers or astronomers that they call, that are full on YouTube.
Right.
They
will go through.
They create content. Yeah, go ahead.
They will go to any and all possible lengths. They will spare no expense, spare no effort to prove it somehow, anyhow.
Exactly. Who wants to add something before we continue?
Look how much money they get funded a day to be able to propagate this bullshit.
Yeah,
and
60 million
they're spending very
injections.
less. That's why we could debunk these people, because they're spending very less of what they're taking. Assholes. Yeah.
Yeah, good,
Hey
good
Vikka, hey
point.
Vikka.
And then they've still got air
Hold on.
bubbles. They've still got air bubbles in their spacewalks.
Hey Rob, are you being paid to be on this podcast?
No, I'm not.
Hey Vikka,
Nobody would pay me.
hey Vikka, are you being paid to be on this podcast?
Nope.
Jeannie, are you being paid to be on this podcast? Look,
Spiritually,
we don't
yes.
even have any funding right now, and we're debunking the shit out of them.
Yeah, there are billions of dollars of setup,
We're
and it's so
we're
easy to debunk because it is a clown show. Yep, go ahead.
we're debunking it and we're mocking it. Every last component of it, mocking it openly.
Good, because they laugh at us too. So I got a question.
Oh yeah, down their nose.
What lights the thing up? Because you see a light in the sky. They got lights on the outside of that thing.
That's why I suggested a projection. I don't know.
That was a good one. I never thought of that, Kevin. But it is lit
But
up.
the
And
light,
here's something else too. You know, they do these spacewalks. They're fixing like what's on the outside of this thing that they got to fix, and for hours no less, right? And
Yeah, right.
They don't show them fixing anything inside. They got wires literally all over the place. It's an electrician's nightmare in there.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And they're in there brushing their teeth with water going all over the place.
And they're showing water going everywhere. Literally, huh?
Out of here. No,
Hey Gene,
Yeah.
Hey Gene, we should look up if any of these astronauts have an electrician degree in any way, shape, or form.
I couldn't imagine.
the funny part is
absurd.
the funny part is that these people are doing their stupid science, which is not a science at all. What they're showing through the ISS with closed windows and nothing. If they were really that high, the most important thing they need to be doing is showing the Earth from above, how the whole life is working on this globe, especially South Africa, Australia, Antarctica, which is supposed to be upside down. You know, forget about the up part. Show us the upside down and how the world is so beautiful. Show us every part of it, how the life is working. But no, they're doing their stupid science in a closed place because it's not its size. Maybe it's Area 51, maybe it's whatever studio, you know. So there is no science there.
You brought up a really good point, Vikka, because that's what they say. We're up here doing science, and it's like, I'm sorry, excuse me? There's such a vague statement. We're up here doing science.
Right. What is science?
What are you doing? What are you doing for the people on Earth? You're doing nothing. They don't do anything for down here. It's crazy. It's aggravating.
And plus, they're screwing up big time. Pocket of gravity, you know, and whatever, you know, spilling things, glitches. They're screwing it up more. Science.
Squeezing rags of water out, getting water all over the place.
Bubbles in space.
In a room with all these electrical components, these microchips, and they're just spraying water all over the place. Guys, you got to start thinking a little bit more. That they can't do that. They would never be able to do that.
Show us,
show us the Earth, man. No, show us the freaking Earth.
Show us a panoramic view of Earth and the ISS, and shut us all up.
Yeah, turn the cameras back on the Earth, right?
I share a clip from David Weiss quite often of them using augmented reality technology or virtual reality, where there's a lemon or an orange something floating in space next to it, over and grab it, and their hand just goes right to the object.
Yep.
They've been busted so many times. They've forgotten to remove the wires with the CGI. Sometimes you can see when the astronaut's hanging there on wires. It's so easy to prove that it's fake if someone is willing to actually look.
Look at the women's hair. Look, guys, Google hairspray in space, and you look at the women's hair, and it's a complete joke. And then you look at the Vomit Comet, the airplane that offers the 0 G's for the parabolic flight they take up and down, the porpoising. Your hair is like in a swimming pool. It's it's got nothing to it. There's nothing pulling it down, and it's completely different from what they show in these ISS clips. It's like Hollywood makeup in their hair, like Dippity Doo from the '80s when you spiked your hair up. It's comical.
It is comical.
Oh yeah,
It's comical.
It's full of the whole. Every time they show something, it's full of all these funny stuff happening. So
Theatrics.
anyway, the other thing I wanted to add about the ISS, the junk, is they say that the ISS is 400-kilometer high. Okay, and according to at that height, only 3% of Earth should be visible. Okay, if we speak about science, okay, only 3% of Earth should be visible at 400 kilometers. And in the images they show 90, 80, or 50 or 70% of the Earth, the whole bulge right there. Another red flag right in front of us.
Science fiction affirmity.
That's a good one, Vikka. I didn't know that. 3% at that height, and they're showing the whole thing.
Yeah, then you compare that to what you see with SpaceX when they allegedly launched the car up there, and you can see almost the entire Earth beyond SpaceX. Or behind Tesla, I mean, the Tesla car.
I actually made a funny meme about that. They came out of New Mexico.
You know,
so.
I couldn't believe that was real when I was watching. I'm like, they're really trying to pull this off as real? This is crazy.
Well, it looks so real.
And that was
it looks so fake that it must be real.
Yeah. And by the way, that was in a movie called Heavy Metal in 1980 or 82. There's a movie called Heavy Metal, and they had a car out in space. So the more of the programming.
No, they just did that in Fast and the Furious Part 9. They launched a little Pinto or something up into space. It was hilarious.
God, Pintos. Didn't Pintos blow up real easy if you crashed into them? Isn't that why they were pulled off the market? Was it the Pinto? If you tapped the back bumper, it was like boom. One of the cars from back in the day did that. I thought it was a Pinto.
They also make the claim that they had to dodge a piece of space junk. While they're going 17,000 miles an hour, they had to dodge a piece of junk.
Keith, we were just talking about when it came to space debris. Look up this guy named David Adar. He's a military, or he's a materials specialist from NASA. He talks about how there's so much space debris when it comes to UV rays, gamma rays, the Van Allen belt, infrared rays, that none of these other satellites or any rocket ships get phased on in any way, shape, or form. It's kind of just another joke to laugh upon.
Yeah, I think I shared with you guys the first podcast I ever did with you. I had just, like the week before, had a conversation with someone who worked at NASA for 20 years. I live in the Daytona Beach area, which is about an hour north of the Cape. And just through the conversation, it sounded like he was open to some conspiracy stuff. So I asked him, I said, hey, is NASA legit or are they fraudulent? And he immediately said, it's both. He said, what they do at the Cape and launching those rockets, that's all fraudulent. Their real work is with the military, and it's secret, and you'll never know about it.
I remember that conversation, actually. I remember hearing that.
I believe it.
So this comes from a dude working there for 20 years. Was he lying to me? Maybe, but I got a pretty good feeling he was telling the truth.
Exactly, because all mapping the Earth and controlling and surveillance, that's what it's all about. Tactics, The rest is all fairy tales to keep the indoctrinated entertained, So awesome show, guys. It's awesome discussion we're having today, and this could be never-ending topic also, So if you want to have some fun about the Tesla car in the space, if not, we're gonna have last thoughts on the topic, and we'll be wrapping up.
I think
Who wants
the
to go
car
first?
was just a joke. They had a glitch in the launch of that car. It just overlooked it. It was just boom! All of a sudden, they were in space, and this pod opened up. It was interesting.
Can,
Fake.
Can I say this?
Go ahead, Rob.
It's more the programming. It's more the MK Ultra. They're just changing the face of it. They're just kind of shifting into the new Tesla style instead of the NASA style. Instead of the rockets, instead of the space shuttle, they're going into something more chic and more modern. That's all it is. That's all it is. They're just changing the face of the MK Ultra.
And it's private, so it's not NASA anymore. Not us.
Okay.
For my
yeah, and we have this.
For my conclusion, can I just laugh?
Yeah, and the Virgin Galactic, the SpaceX, yeah, it's just to make it more hi-fi, you know. That's it. The same manipulation, the same announcements and publicity, and we are gonna do this, and yeah, finally we are going again to the moon. From how long? You know, oh, we are going to the Mars. Yeah. Oh, we send these rovers. Yeah. Yeah. What the hell? What? Hey, we discovered some shit. Yeah.
And by the way, with the air pressure being, I think it's 1/6 of Earth's, you cannot fly a helicopter in that kind of an atmosphere. Can't, Rob? Am I wrong? Okay, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Without atmosphere, there's no flight. Absolutely.
Right.
There's no combustion thrust.
That too.
Well, you can't get there in the first place.
Little on Mars. Okay, Mars is trying to say they slowed down so many thousand miles of trajectory towards the surface, and then they deployed this parachute with no atmosphere to support it. It simply cannot exist.
With no oxygen to support a nucleus or a cellulus, saying that there's a living organism to begin with?
Yeah. All of it. Yep. It's all absurd. It's all literally a scientific absurdity. Like we said, as always, it's a mathematical, geometric, geospatial, and in all other in all respects, scientific absurdity. All of it.
And by the way, life came out of nowhere, out of this empty space we're talking about. Formed life eventually.
Yep, there you go.
Another subject, but
panspermia. Yeah, panspermia. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, they're gonna keep this illusion going. You know, they're gonna take a lot of money through movies, through series, and through all these fake projects and
music,
fake promotions and fake music, and this is gonna how you say, take advantage. They are taking the advantage. They're gonna mine on that, the stupidity of the majority about this space and sci-fi and this whole universe, you know. So it's time that the people wake up and see all these things and see by yourself. It's you don't have to be a rocket scientist to debunk NASA, you know.
You're about to pop off another 2-hour subject, Vikka.
You want to know how I think Bezos and Musk and Branson, these rich guys are fake? Because they would have hotels on the moon by now. They wouldn't be going to Mars to go hang out there. They wouldn't be flying cars into nothing. They would have hotels on the moon. That's what I think. They would be taking people into orbit and having them pay for it. And they already Branson sold tickets 20 years ago to orbit the moon and go do a 3-day flyby of the moon. That, you know, his friends bought.
He's still a virgin. He's still a virgin, you know. So
yeah. And look
right, and the virgin, because they have not yet penetrated the rakia. That's why it's virgin.
Yeah, and look,
it's always going to be a virgin.
Until God peels it back like a scroll.
There you go, right? And then there's nothing coming out of it.
Nah, guys, there's no aliens coming to crash the Earth. Don't worry. No, they're not going to get hit by another half a planet. The moon didn't come because something the size of the moon crashed into us, and oh, there's something the size of Mars crashed into us and gave us the moon. That's nonsense. That's not what happened. You know.
You guys see that
So
clip?
they're all lights in the sky, aren't they? They're just lights in the sky.
There are lights in the ceiling, and we are the ground floor.
Solar luminescence.
There you go.
I think that's why I think that's why the Vatican pays such close attention to the sky, because they don't really move. And if something could be happening, if something moves up there at all, like a fraction, it could be a signal. So that's kind of my take on something like that. Because what is their interest in looking at these stars? They know they're not there. They know they're not planets flying around somewhere else. So there's a significant reason why they own. They have the oldest telescope going ever, I think, and they're very interested in that. So it catches my attention of what they want.
It's just to show the people that they're doing some science there.
That's
okay, it's
right.
always good. The humanity has always been looking to the sky and curiosity. So it's just the same tradition, but in a more high tech way. And also there are 20 people that are.
Rob,
there are 20
they're the wizards of
astronomers.
The sky. That's what they are.
Exactly.
Right, Rob.
They're the wizards of the sky.
Rob, the Star of Bethlehem.
Okay.
Right? They had wise men seeking the stars at a very old age.
Right, even then. Because, here's something for everybody. The original Zodiac, the original Zodiac came from the original 12 tribes of Israel. If you want to go that far, the stars, the position of the stars overhead, as we know well, the sun tells us the time of day, the moon tells us the time of the month, and the stars tell us the seasons. Okay,
that's why astrology is so perverted.
Exactly. That's why they've seized control over it. Okay, that's why they make such a show of knowing what the stars say. Okay, that's what all that zodiac astrology bullshit is. Okay, but originally the creation story is told in the stars. It's there. I've done some research on it. Originally, the ancient house of Israel, they told the creation story in the stars. There you go. Look up the almanac. Look up the farmer's almanac.
It's also about the cycles and ages, and so it's just to keep some kind of record and we're doing some science, so respect us, listen to us, that's what it's all about. So all right, guys, we're gonna be wrapping it up. We're gonna have last thoughts about the show today, and we're gonna say goodbye. All right, so who's gonna go first? Last thoughts.
I'll go. Okay.
I'll just mention something. You guys, I might have missed it earlier, but it's that quote from, I think his name is Robert David Steele. He was a senior CIA officer, and he said that there's a group of people in the CIA, and they refer to NASA as not a space agency. And he says they also call NASA, or they say NASA is where the bulk of mind control is being done in the government. And this is somebody who was deep in the government for most of his life. So that's my signing off, guys. It was good to be with you again. And I hope to talk to you all real soon.
Always a pleasure.
Oh, yeah, Keith. Thanks for passing by, Keith. It's always a pleasure, brother. Who's next? Who's going next?
Okay, my phone is about to die, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Guys, it was a pleasure. Kevin, Gene, Keith, Rob Taylor, and Vikka. Hopefully, you'll be back next week, okay?
Love you, brother. So much. So good to hear your voice, brother.
Keep up the good work, Eddie, brother.
Okay, I'm signing out. My phone is about to die, so talk to you guys later, okay? Bye-bye.
All the best, Eddie.
Nos vamos.
Be well, Eddie.
Love your videos.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Who's going next?
Rob, G.
Go for it. This is such a big subject. We didn't talk much about Fishbowl. The U.S. military literally fired missiles against the dome firmament called the Rakia. It's there. Admiral Byrd confirmed that it did exist. His plane flew into it. Then less than 10 years later, the U.S. military returned fired missiles against it, okay? We're talking massive hyperbaric missiles, and not just one or two. Several missiles fired against this thing. They fired so many missiles against it, they mapped it, okay? They mapped it. They know it's there, and now they bounce electronic signals across it. So they know it's there. Space does not exist. Oh, by the way, to everybody, I sent to the Vikka podcast, I sent to the messenger, the Facebook messenger, our group, I sent several links that talk about NASA, okay, admits finding an impenetrable barrier in space. There it is. If you just type this, impenetrable barrier in space, there it is. It's all over the place. It's there. It's well known. We know what the Van Allen belts are, okay? They disguised it as if, and well, actually, they talk about it exactly. Some kind of electromagnetic barrier. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what the firmament Rakia is. It's there. All this space show is just a clown show. That's all it is. And there's so much more to say about it. And that's all for me. Thanks again.
Thanks, Rob, for being here. Always great pleasure to having you here, brother.
Thanks,
Kevin.
for putting it on.
Gene, do you mind?
Yeah, no, I'm ready, brother. Vikka, thanks for the show, my man. I know it's late for you. I really appreciate you bringing me on, man. Had a lot of fun. Kevin, great to see you. Rob, great to see you. Matthew, good to see you. Keith, Eddie, I'm glad you're feeling better. Everyone in the audience, thank you so much for spending your time with us. I hope you had fun and come back. And I'd like to say that outer space is just the distance between two objects. There is no outer space. The outer space that is possible, more possible, is just extra land that they're not telling us about. And that's really what I think it is. It's all here. It's not out there. It's all here, guys. And I love you all. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Vikka.
Excellent, brother. Really well said.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Jeannie. It's always a pleasure. Kevin.
Thanks, man.
Just to kind of give a proper synopsis of how television programming is telling our vision with programming. Originally used Walt Disney, who happened to be in cahoots with Jack Parsons, which was an apprentice of Alexander Crowley. It's quite easy to connect the dots from there, knowing that outer space is a complete imagination, science fiction, propaganda, mind control, bullshit agenda that they want to take over our minds with. That's why it's so authentic, having like-minded people like us. And yes, for everybody in the crowd, you can take us as crazy, you can take us as intelligent, but if you can't tell, we've done our research on the subject. So dubs to everybody that was on the channel. Thank you so much, Vikka Draziv, for letting me pop off. Thank you, Rob, Keith, Matthew, Gene, everybody that was a part of this team. We're making a big influence on this movement, and they're trying to do whatever they could to stop us, but they're not going to if they tried.
Awesome, brother. Kevin, thank you so much for being here, brother. It's always also great pleasure to have you and all your inputs too. So, oh yeah, definitely we really, how we say, shredded the fake space kind of tonight. You know, we try to touch on most of the thing, but yeah, definitely there's so much lots we could add on and expand on it. But yeah, it's just a clown show. You know, it's so easy. It's so right in our faces. So open your eyes, guys, and see you guys soon for the next show. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Rob, Keith, Matthew, and Eddie.
And Eddie as well.
Oh yeah. And everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here. And make sure you check us out next week with our next show of Heliopsychosis podcast. Thank you, guys. See you soon next week. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. All the best.
Goodbye. Much
Good
love.
night, everybody.
Bye.
Vic
we have a problem.